What if I told you that the generation that grew up glued to screens is now voluntarily going back to flip phones? I'm not talking about some hipster trend or nostalgia trip. I'm talking about a genuine movement where 18-year-olds are trading their $1,200 iPhones for $30 Nokia bricks, and they're happier than they've ever been. The digital detox revolution is real. Look, when I first heard about this, I thought it was complete nonsense. Gen Z ditching smartphones? The generation that practically invented TikTok dances? But then I dug into the numbers and honestly, it blew my mind. According to a 2023 study by Counterpoint Research, sales of feature phones, that's the fancy term for what we used to call dumb phones, increased by 5% globally while smartphone sales actually declined. But here's the kicker, the fastest growing demographic buying these basic phones? People aged 18-25. We're talking about digital natives, kids who got their first iPad before they could tie their shoes, voluntarily choosing devices that can barely send a text message without making you want to throw them across the room. Let me paint you a picture. Meet Sarah, a 20-year-old college student from Portland. 6 months ago, she was spending 8-10 hours daily on her iPhone. Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, the whole digital carousel. Her screen time reports looked like a part-time job. She was anxious, couldn't concentrate on her studies, and felt like she was living her life through a 6-inch screen. Then she did something radical. She bought a $25 flip phone from 27 off eBay. No apps. No internet. Just calls and texts that take forever to type. And you know what happened? Within 2 weeks, she was sleeping better. Her grades improved. She started having actual conversations with people instead of scrolling past them. The research backs this up. Dr. Larry Rosen's studies at California State University found that even short breaks from smartphones significantly reduce anxiety and improve focus. But we're not talking about short breaks here. We're talking about a complete digital lifestyle overhaul. And Sarah isn't alone. There are entire online communities, ironically hosted on the very platforms they're trying to escape, dedicated to dumbphone living. Reddit's r/dumbphones has over 50,000 members sharing tips on which Nokia model has the best T9 texting and how to survive without Google Maps. The Light Phone Company, which makes a credit card-sized phone that only calls and texts, reported a 300% increase in sales between 2022 and 2023. Their customers? Predominantly under 30. But why is this happening now? What's driving an entire generation to voluntarily step backward in technology? The answer lies in what researchers call digital fatigue syndrome. A 2023 study published in the Journal of Behavioral Addictions found that 71% of young adults check their phones within 10 minutes of waking up, and 64% check them within 10 minutes of going to bed. We've created a generation of people who literally cannot exist without digital stimulation. Think about it. When was the last time you were genuinely bored? Not scrolling through your phone bored, but actually, completely unstimulated? Most Gen Z individuals haven't experienced true boredom since childhood. And boredom, according to neuroscientist Dr. Manoush Somorodi's research, is crucial for creativity and mental well-being. These young people aren't just buying dumb phones, they're buying back their attention spans, their sleep cycles, and their ability to be present in their own lives. The digital dependency dilemma. Now, before we all start throwing our smartphones in the trash and singing Kumbaya around a Nokia campfire, let's be real about something. This movement, while fascinating, faces some pretty significant challenges. First off, we live in a hyper-connected world that almost demands smartphone ownership. Good luck getting a job without email access. Try navigating a new city without Google Maps. Ever tried to split a dinner bill without Venmo? I talked to Marcus, a 22-year-old who tried the dumb phone experiment for 3 months. He loved the mental clarity, but he also missed 2 job interviews because the companies only communicated through apps, got lost for 2 hours trying to find a friend's house party, and couldn't participate in his study group's WhatsApp discussions. The infrastructure of modern life is built around smartphone connectivity, QR code menus at restaurants, digital boarding passes, 2-factor authentication for basically everything, banking apps. The list goes on. There's also the social isolation factor. Dr. Sherry Turkle's research at MIT shows that while smartphones can create shallow connections, they also provide genuine social support networks, especially for marginalized communities. For many young people, their phones aren't just entertainment devices, they're lifelines to community, resources, and support systems. And let's address the elephant in the room: privilege. The ability to disconnect assumes you have other ways to stay connected professionally and socially. Not everyone has a laptop at home, a stable internet connection, or the luxury of being unreachable for work. Critics argue that the dumb phone movement is essentially digital gentrification, a luxury for those who already have established networks and resources. So are we looking at a genuine solution to digital overwhelm, or just another lifestyle trend for the privileged few? The intentional technology approach. Here's where it gets interesting. The real story isn't about completely abandoning modern technology, it's about developing what researchers call intentional technology use. The most successful dumb phone adopters aren't going completely analog. They're creating what I call a tech hierarchy. Sarah, the student I mentioned earlier, she still has her laptop for school and work. She still uses streaming services on her TV. She just removed the always available, dopamine-triggering device from her pocket. This approach is supported by research from the Center for Humane Technology. Their studies show that the most effective digital wellness strategies don't involve complete disconnection, but rather conscious, purposeful engagement with technology. Some people are adopting weekend warriors approaches, smartphones during the week, flip phones on weekends. Others are creating phone-free time blocks during their day. The key is intentionality rather than total abstinence. And honestly, this makes sense from a psychological perspective. Complete digital detox can create a rebound effect, like crash dieting leading to binge eating. But measured, intentional changes? Those tend to stick. The companies are starting to notice too. Apple introduced screen time controls. Google created digital well-being features. Even social media platforms are reluctantly adding usage tracking and limit-setting tools. But here's what's really fascinating. The young people leading this movement aren't anti-technology. They're pro-consciousness. They want to choose when and how they engage with digital tools rather than being passively consumed by them. What this says about our future. This brings us to some bigger questions that I think we all need to grapple with. Are we witnessing the beginning of a major cultural shift? Or is this just a small rebellion that will be absorbed back into the digital mainstream? Think about it. If the generation that grew up with smartphones is actively rejecting them, what does that say about the technology itself? Are we building tools that genuinely serve human flourishing, or are we just creating increasingly sophisticated distraction machines? And here's an even deeper question. What are we optimizing for as a society? Productivity? Connection? Entertainment? Or are we just optimizing for engagement and profit, regardless of the human cost? Because let's be honest, the companies making billions from our attention aren't exactly incentivized to help us use their products less. Every notification, every algorithmic feed, every streak system is designed to keep us engaged, not to make us happier or more fulfilled. The dumb phone movement might be small now, but it represents something bigger. A generation that's starting to question the fundamental assumptions about how we should live with technology. Maybe the real revolution isn't in the phones themselves. Maybe it's in young people saying, just because we can be connected 24/7 doesn't mean we should be. And maybe, just maybe, they're onto something that the rest of us need to hear. So I want to know, have you ever considered going back to a basic phone? What would you gain? What would you lose? And more importantly, what does your relationship with your smartphone actually cost you? Because at the end of the day, these young people aren't just buying different phones. They're buying back their lives.